Well, today we have got a very interesting guest. Pound for pound, one of the strongest human beings ever to walk the face of the earth. At just over 4 feet tall, this man bench pressed not one, not two, not three, but four times his body weight. He's got a bunch of world records, often beating his own world record, and a bunch of other cool stories to share. My title for today's podcast, Let Me Try. Let's get into it with Mr. Anton Kraft on the higher line.
Welcome to another episode of the Carry Trainer Higher Line podcast.
Well, hey, all, welcome to yet another episode of the Carry Trainer Higher Line podcast. Today, we have a guest that is right out of a James Bond movie. Pound for pound, one of the strongest human beings on planet Earth, Mr. Anton Kraft. How are you, sir?
Thank you, Mike. Mikey, I'm good. And thanks for the nice introduction.
Where are you from with that European accent? I know where you're from, but tell the viewers.
I was born in Denmark many years ago, home of
Like, home of the what?
Vikings.
The Vikings. And you now live in South Florida. Years ago, just a quick aside before we begin, you reached out to me and brought me down to Homestead for a class, which was super cool. And that's when we met in person. I don't know, that was probably 5, 6, 7 years ago. If people Google you, they will see some crazy pictures of you bench pressing massive amounts of weight. Why don't we just talk a little bit about that just briefly, and then we'll come back. So you've got some records, and if memory serves, you're one of the only people that's ever benched like 4 times their body weight or something like that.
Yeah, I got involved in powerlifting because some people told me that I should do it because I had some kind of talent for it, right? And back in the days when I was going to the gym, it was basically started out because the boys said I couldn't do it. I was too short, and I couldn't do any good in the gym, right? So eventually one day they caved in and let me go with them to the gym. And the only condition was I could move the same as them. And pretty soon I succeeded them. And then it became a competition among us to see how much I could lift and bench and stuff like that. And then we went to other gyms in order to harass the coaches, because then I was supposed to be the dummy, not knowing what I was doing. And then we were humiliating the coach at one of the local gyms, because I came in a one size sweatshirt. And then I wanted him to show me how to do bench or squat or something like that, right?
So wait a sec. You were there kind of pranking these guys. Is that what you're telling me? So you'd show up, and for the viewers, the listeners, how tall are you?
4 feet 4.
4 feet 4. So what's the proper terminology for a person that's 4'4"? What do people? I don't know. You're not allowed to say anything anymore.
It depends on how touchy feeling you are. But if you are one of those vanilla people, then it's called a short person.
All right.
But if you can call it with whatever it is, right? You can basically say some people call it midget, some people call it dwarf, some people call it by the medical term, which has something to do with constitutional, and that is basically the same illness that you see in short-legged dogs, the hot dog dog.
Ooh, like a dachshund?
Yeah, because that's a disease that's implemented in a dog in order to get its short legs. In order to do that, it means that the bones, you can compare to concrete. Concrete harden up too fast, right? And that is basically what happens to the softness in the bones. When my bones was created, my bones got stiff too fast. That's also why the walls in my bones are thicker than yours.
Mm. So does that make your bones? Is that part of the reason you're able to lift so much?
No, it has to do with general physics, because my distance of traveling is shorter than yours,
Mm-hmm.
and there are certain things that works for me in that respect, right? But there's another thing that doesn't work in that respect. That is, for instance, when you say I stretch out my arm, I cannot lock out my elbow. You can lock out your elbow. I cannot lock out my elbow. That means I hold the whole weight in with my muscles. You can rest it. When you lock out, you can rest it.
What's your personal best bench press?
The best I have done, either you mean in training or for competition.
Let's go with both. What's the most you ever lifted in a competition? Bench press.
483.
And you weighed how much?
137.
So you were 137 pounds and you benched 483. And what was your personal best just in the gym?
The best in the gym, I have done reps with 505.
Holy shit. Why were you not able to do that in a competition?
Because what can you say? In the gym, right? There's a different atmosphere, and I was in that moment of my life. I had stopped competing, and I was just basically goofing around and doing things with the other guys, right? And we were lifting weight, and then when guys who are basically 220, 240, and 260 pounds, you're training with those guys, and they just keep adding on to it, then there comes a whole different dynamic into it, a dynamic that do not have in competition, because you do not compete face to what can you say, uh, on the same way you do it in the gym. If I was
Sure.
if I was training, for instance, with you, right, and you are about 200 pounds or something like that, right, you and I will never go head to head on the platform. Never. We can compete overall on points, but we will never go head to head with the same weight,
Mm,
because we are not in the same weight category.
sure, sure.
So therefore, if I go to was in a competition, I will compete with those guys who were in my weight class, and that will be four or five other guys, right? That's the people I will be competing with, and that and they that in the nature, they do not move the same amount of weight as I do, or
Sure.
I did. So therefore, the same encouragement to do crazy shit and go and be above and beyond is not there.
How, do you think all those years of lifting, what do you now? How old are you now, Anton?
62.
You're 52 or
Six-
62?
62.
6'2"? No way. That's fantastic. I thought you were 15 years younger than that. I know we've talked about it in the past, but I haven't visited with you in a while. Do you think all those years of lifting was a benefit or a detriment to you now at 62?
I think it had helped me tremendously, because uh, it had helped me in the way that I always been pretty good shape. And when the body is in pretty good shape, it can do way more than it can if it's in bad condition, right? It's the same car. If your car is shitty, then it cannot make it to the next city, right? But if
Right.
your car is well kept, regardless of age, it will do a cross country with no issues.
That's a good analogy. When you're a kid, I'm sure you've talked about this, thought about this. You were different, right? How tall were you when you were like in grade school?
Oh, I started out like 3 feet or something like that.
Wow. I'm sitting next to a table right now that's probably 30 inches.
Uh,
So the top of my coffee cup was your head. How, now we're talking uh, late 1960s when you were in grade school.
when I was in grade school, you can say that was a whole different area, a whole different time frame, right?
And
Much,
that was it. That was in Europe or that was here? When did you
oh,
come to
that
the
was
U?
that was in Europe, but
Okay.
but the condition back then was way different than they are today. Back then people were not so touchy feeling. It was more pragmatic. What can we do and what can we get done, right? And my father, he was what you will call The old head honcho, he was the king on the hill, and it was his way or the highway, right? And there were a few different ways of doing things. That was the right way, his way, the wrong way, right? And in order to stay on the right side of the sun, you have to do it his way, right?
What kind of work did he do?
He had a trucking company.
Okay.
So what can you say? I saw him deal with guys your size and bigger, and how he did that, right? And every now and then I was with him at work to see, and also to pass time, And it taught me a few things about human interaction, and how they treated me, because they treated me with respect. But that was because I was my father's son, right? They didn't want to. So there was something there, right? But I also saw how my father what can you say, communicated with other people, right? And I started taking that into me, communicating with people the same way, right? Because and when I was a kid, I was the shortest guy in my class, right? And of course, then I get bullied, right? And then you learn from that. You get tougher. When the going gets tougher, you get rougher, right? And
So you're in grade school, and when you say bullied, what did that look like?
that
Were
can
people just
uh,
picking on you, or were they like physically hurting you?
yeah, but guys jump each other and stuff like that, right? And they hide your books, and they do all kinds of stuff. Like I was in on it myself after a couple of months with other guys, right? Because you run with a pack, right? You
The victim becomes the bullier, huh? you, you thought you'd dish it out on some other kids.
Yeah, you learn, you learn, right? And we human beings, we are pack animals, right? It's not we you only have to scratch a little bit in the surface, then you come back to nature, right? We are pack animals.
Sure, sure, that's true. So you're in school, some kids are picking on you, but for the most part, your childhood was pretty good.
My childhood was good, and also because I stood up to it, right? I didn't surrender. And when can you say, when people don't surrender, then you take out the fun element of those who are against you, right? Or who want to make a prank on you, or who want to bully you, right? If you stand up to it, and you're able to deal with it, right? And they can see on you that it has no impact on you, right? You just retaliate, right? And then it takes the whole fun out of it.
So your response to the bullying was stand up to it, fight back, and eventually they left you alone. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because when I get home to my father after school, right, after when he come home from school, from work, right, and I, for instance, could have a black eye, or I could have some sore ribs or something like that, and then he will ask me, how was school today? What did you learn? And then I will complain about, I'm sore, I had a black eye or something like that, and he will say, how did that happen? What happened to the other guys? Why didn't you do something? And then I would say, blah 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 blah. I couldn't do it, and that was a no go from my father, because
So just so I'm understanding, you'd get beat up, you'd come home beat up, and then your dad asked, "What did you do to retaliate or defend yourself?" And you did not have a response. Is that what I'm hearing?
if I would have said that to my dad, then my dad would have said, "You're not my son," because he wanted me to. Because I was the shortest one in the family, right? I have a brother. He's about a foot taller than me, right? And a little more than a foot taller than me. I'm the shortest one in the family. So my father wanted for me to be strong enough to deal with the society that I will eventually go out and be a part of, right? So in order to do that, I needed to have, like he called it, elephant skin, right? And I needed to be able to defend myself, right?
How do you say elephant skin in your native tongue?
Oh, uh, thick skin. It,
I
it,
remember that.
it sounds funny, I know, but that's how it was, right? Because he knew from experience with the people that he had working for him that the world is brutal. The world is a brutal place. It has not changed since then. It's still a brutal place, even though we try to put so many so-called vanilla zones in it or so many new fashion words in it, right? It's still a brutal place. We just don't want to see it that way, but it is.
Sure, sure. What did your teenage years look like?
My teenage, I was in boarding school because my father passed away when I was 11,
Oh, wow.
and my mom couldn't. My mom had one of my father's friends that worked for my father. He tried to help my mom when she became a widow because he had me and my brother. Right?
What happened to your father?
He had cancer,
Wow.
so he died within 6 months. And then you can say there was something about it that you, what can you say, I had difficulties understanding that he was dead when I was 11 because I saw him as a human, not a god or anything like that, but I saw him as something indestructible, right?
Sure.
And so therefore when I realized that he was dead, right, I saw he was getting sicker and sicker and sicker. And we had a what can you call it?
Funeral?
I run in me and my dad about 2 weeks before he dies, where he I had done something that wrong in school, and my kid brother, he had given my mom the report card, so my mom was well aware of what had transpired, right?
Mm.
And she have handled it to my dad, and my dad was now well aware of what have transpired, right? And since he was the high executioner and king of the hill and everything in between, right? So therefore, he wanted to give me some kind of physical punishment, right? But he was no longer capable of doing that because of his illness, and that was when I realized he was sick, because he was about to pull my hand like this, right? And take me to the other room, but he couldn't. He couldn't, and I was only a little kid, right? So he couldn't. So I realized he was sick, and that was a shock for me. And then 2 weeks later, he expired at the hospital.
Wow.
And then I went up there with my mom, and I couldn't understand he was dead. So I went over there and I poked him, and nothing happened. So I realized that he was dead, right? And that was an eye opener for me in many respects, right? Because then all of a sudden, many of the things that over the years that he has said and said over and over and over and over and over again, in hope that it will some way somehow find a shelf in my brain to lay on, right? And I will grab it and I will take it in and understand it, right? All of a sudden, many of those things that I have seen him done or I have heard him saying, it all of a sudden start coming in like cam wheels in an engine, right? It all of a sudden started making sense.
Mm.
But then there was another thing in it because when my mom became a widow, he was no longer there. So all of a sudden, there was no king on the hill. What happened then? Then the apprentice want to be king on the hill, right? So since I was the oldest son, so I want to gain the throne. But my mom wouldn't have that, so she called in reinforcement from my in order to deal with that. But he was no match for me because I was used to my dad. But that was a whole different caliber, right? So then she called in a Catholic priest. And then she said to him, "What do we do with Anton?" That's very simple. We send him to a boarding school. Very simple. And we
What kind of boarding school was it?
and one of the old school one with uniforms and everything.
So how many years were you there?
I was there from second to the end of my school term by the end of high school.
So 2 years?
No, from second grade to the end of high school.
Oh, crap. Wow. Okay. How
So
often would you come home? How often did you come home?
the first year I came home every weekend, and that was not a good idea. And then the next year we stopped doing on the weekends, and then I came home for the holidays, and then we stopped doing that unless it was for the break for summer. And then I've ended up basically having what can you say, um, a friend of the family who was in the Danish military. He was with the peacekeeping forces for UN at Cyprus, because there used to be a war between Greece and Turkey over Cyprus. So Cyprus is basically cut in two, Turkish part and Greek part. And there's a UN peacekeeping force there, so they don't fight each other, because the Turks don't like the Greek and the Greek don't like the Turks. So he was down there, and then his house was not abandoned, but he was not using it, right? So I was offered that occasion to call home, because I couldn't stay where my mom was living, because that was a no go, because I would be we didn't coexist that well.
You and your mother?
My mom and my brother, we didn't coexist that well. Our view of life was different and became more different.
How old were you when you started going to Cyprus?
I never went to Cyprus. He was in Cyprus.
Ah,
He
his home that was in Denmark. I got you. I got you. I
he,
misunderstood.
his home was vacant because he was in Cyprus. And then
How old were you living in this guy's house?
I was 13 when I moved in.
So you're a 13-year-old kid alone?
Yeah. And I can tell you something funny. The only dish I could make when I got home from boarding school in some of my weekends, right? That was hamburgers. That was the only thing I could do to begin with, right? Then one day, my the neighbor in the house next door, she came in, and then she knocked on the door, and then I went out and opened the door, and there was my neighbor. And I said, "What can I do for you?" And she said, "Anton, I have a gift for you." A gift? Yeah. I'm well aware that you are a young teenager, you're a young man, and you probably don't know how to cook. So here is a cookbook for beginner. So she gave me a cookbook for beginner, right? So what did I do? I started from page one, and then I did a new dish every time I came home in order to figure out how to cook.
That's cool. Dude, you were kind of like raised at school then, really, after your father passed.
Yeah.
I bet you've got some crazy stories from all those years at boarding school. Anything that's worth sharing?
We did a lot of crazy shit, right? And one of the things in the middle school, right? You know, when the water gets hard and there comes ice on the water on a lake, right? And people used to ice skate on it, right? And then of course we had ice skating, right? And two guys and me, we couldn't skate. Basically, I was the two other guys. They couldn't skate either. So we was sat like this on the shore and watched the other people ice skating. Right, very interesting. Right, very interesting. So what happened? One of the guys, his name was Pierre. Pierre, he said, "Anton, you need to do something about this here." I said, "Yeah, but what do you want us to do? The water is hard. There's ice on it." Yeah, but then I said, "You want us to do something? The only way we can do something is by taking their skates away from them, or we can remove the ice." And then he said, "You're an idiot." Okay, so the following day, Pierre came to me and he said, "I found a solution." What? We gotta blow up the lake. So what we did, we black powder,
Sure.
gunpowder. So we had chemistry and physics and stuff like that, and we had easy access to the materials, right? So we went and did some black powder, and then we had when you have woodwork, woodwork in school, right?
Sure.
So I came to my teacher and said I needed to make a bowl, a food bowl, right? And then Pierre, he said, I needed to make a football too. So what happened was that he said, you two num-nums are too good in woodwork to do footballs. What the fuck are you up to? It's a present, it's a gift. Yeah. Go ahead, have your fun, right? So we did those two, right? And then of course we put the powder inside and we sealed it with shellac. You know shellac. And and our device for in order to make it go boom, right? The old blitz where you had four blitz bobs in one cube and you rotated them.
What was it?
You remember the old blitz on the camera when you want to take a picture? And
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Like the 110 camera that you rotate
yeah,
those flashes.
right? So we took off that one and took the bob and used that one as our primer in order to make it to go boom, right? So we had everything set up, and we had a battery and everything set up, and then we went and make a hole in the leg in the afternoon.
So you guys were so upset that you couldn't ice skate, you were going to ruin everybody else's fun.
Yes.
What jerks? Continue your story.
So what we did in the late afternoon before study time. The study time was from 5 o'clock, right? So we went and did a hole in the ice and put it underneath the ice and let Mother Nature close the hole. And then we had the wire going across the lake into the shore where we hidden the battery, right? So the following day in the big break, everything went kaboom.
Nobody was out on the ice when you did this, right?
No, because everybody was either in their dorms or they were doing other things in the library or walking around the park. So
how big of an explosion was this?
it was big because they could hear it in the town, and there was ice cubes all over the lake. It was fragmented, so there was ice all over the lake. It was impossible to skate on it afterwards because there was fragments all over the lake, so they couldn't skate on it, right? And then somebody found a dead fish and a dead dog, a duck, and a couple of other items around the place, right? And it was a huge mysterium for about a week or two in order to figure out who were the num-nums who had done that, right? So eventually we got caught because Pierre, he couldn't keep his mouth shut.
Had to tell people what he did.
Yeah, he was so proud of it. So we got house arrest for 4 weeks.
I can't believe that you'd be so spiteful. Instead of trying to figure out how to ice skate, you guys could have just learned how to ice skate.
No, we wanted to that solved the matter once and for all.
So was this a Catholic school?
Yeah.
So you're doing like I don't know what it would be called, like catechism classes and mass and all that stuff.
I learned the Bible. And
did anything?
Let me tell you something in regards to the Bible. One day, me and some of the boys, or the boys and I, we had done something stupid. That happened so often, right? So we were lined up in our headmaster's office, and we were 5 boys lined up. And then he asked us, "Have you done it? Have you done it?" All of us said no. I was the last one because I was the shortest one. So therefore, he asked me last. Anton, have you done it? Nope. And then I was having a goofy smile, right? And then he said, "What do you think is so phenomenally funny, Mr. Kraft?" None of us can be punished because obviously none of us have done it. And you ask all of us, and we all said no. So none of us can be punished, right? That's logic from when you were a kid, right? And then he was, what, leather Bible. Those who can bend, a leather Bible. And then he was walking around with that book and clapping in his hand like this. So you think so, Mr. Kraft? Yes, that's the only logic solution there is to that matter. Okay, let me remind you, Mr. Kraft, the Lord punished hard, and then he slapped me right up in my forehead with the Bible. And then
Wow.
let me remind you, the Lord punished hard. Slap.
Did you guys get in those days in a school like that? Was there a lot of physical punishment?
Yeah, that was the nature of the beast.
Like spankings?
That happened, and slapping and stuff like that.
Anything crazy happen that would be considered criminal now?
But when you have a student who do not do what the student is supposed to do, right? And the teacher don't know how to get rid of that student, right? And tell the other students, we have a problem. We have somebody who don't fit in. Find a solution that fit the matter, right? That would not be happening today.
What kind of solution are you talking about?
We had one guy. His father and mom was very, what you would call liberal, and they were flower power and stuff like that. More like, we talk about it, and of course, son, you do what you want to do. Of course, son, you do what you want to do because, right? And so he came to our school, and of course, the first year of high school, and he complained about everything, everything. He wrote to his mom and pop about this was unfair and this was unfair, and headmaster had mom and mom almost 24/7 on the phone, uh, interrogating headmaster and wanted to know how their son was doing and blah 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 blah. Right. So and then one day we bullied him, right? But one day he contacted a newspaper, a nationwide newspaper, and they came to the school undercover, and they took some pictures and they did an interview with him, right? What happened was, when that newspaper hit the street 2 days later, then what was it? Medieval boarding school in the center of in the heart of Denmark. That's how it was. Medieval boarding school in the heart of Denmark. You know what happened? Instead of the school got blamed by some of those lefties and stuff like that, right? It is what it is, right? But headmaster at the morning assembly, uh, we had morning assembly every day, right? 5 days a week. At the morning assembly, 2 days later, headmaster, he took the podium and he said, "I want to thank you." And then he called the guy up, and he was in the center, right? He called him up. So he was up there by the podium with headmaster, next to headmaster. I want to congratulate you. You have done something nobody in the history of this school have been able to do. And we go back to 1125. 1125, that's how old the school is, right?
Wow.
Nobody in the history of the school have ever been able to do what you have done. We have a waiting list that is more than 4 years ahead of us. We have a waiting list we only dreamt about having. All thanks to you, because parents with kids like you and all of the other ones, they want to join our family, and you don't want to be here, and you're free to leave.
Get out of here.
Yeah. So then eventually he left. He left. He got the message, right? He left.
So do you think that this 8 years, 7 years of your life was beneficial? Was it a good
I think
upbringing versus being at home with mom?
I think it formed me to be the one I am. Right. It laid the foundation. It laid the foundation together, some of the stuff that my father implemented in me. Right. And together with the other stuff, it laid the foundation for who I became.
What did you end up doing? So you get out of the boarding school. What did you end up doing? How'd you end up in the US? What the next 5, 10 years look
Oh,
like?
that many things had happened, because then I went to business school and took that one, and then I took some years in law school, and then I figured out I want to make some money, and then I was making money when I was in school, and then I dropped school, And then I did some. Then I started traveling. I was already traveling a little bit, but then I started traveling more. And yeah, and then what else happened? Then I
Where
went to the gym.
did you finish school?
Oh,
No. So you went to you started business school, started law school, but didn't finish either.
I finished business school. I have a college degree in business and marketing.
I see.
And but I took the first half of business law, but I never finished it.
I see. So you're traveling around, being a stud, and you decide one day you want to get stronger.
That was because I wanted to get stronger because uh, fast forward, one of my friends, he said to me, Anton, you're wasting your time because you could basically be competing if you just learned how to live properly with rules. Then you will be able to compete and you will be able to win, right? So I went to the Danish Federation and told them, I want to join you guys. Can I do that? And then they looked at me and then they told me it was not a circus act and I couldn't join. So I said, I don't like that. Then I tried to figure out if there was another way around it, and they still said no, right? So what did I do? I called my good friend Robert in the U.S. Up in Fort Lauderdale and said, Robert, what do I do? You come to the U.S. and then we figure out a solution for that. So I went to the U.S. and Robert picked me up in the airport, you know, and we went to the gym. And he said, I want to see you lift. That was a gym on US one. I want to see you lift. So I did how I did it, right? And then he said, you're good. You just need to know the commands, and then you're good. You're all good. So he signed me up for the state championship, right? Florida State Championship. And I 2 months later it was right. So I competed at the Florida State state.
What year was that?
I can't remember that. That's about 15, 18 years ago, something like that. And
Wait a minute. So you were in your 40s doing that?
yeah,
Okay. All right.
and then I competed and I won, right? And then so I said, damn, that was easy. And then since I won the state championship, then I was obviously going to to the national championship, right? So I won my title there too. And then I went back to Denmark of all places, right? I said, "Say, look what I did," right? And then yeah, but that's America. It doesn't count here. They don't do it right. That's America. It doesn't count here. We know we do it a different way. They are more for Ringling Brothers and circus and showbiz and stuff like that. This year is
So even what the weight weighs different in Denmark? Is that what they were
no,
saying?
no.
I know.
They're just dumbasses, right? So what happened was then I got pissed. I got serious pissed, right? But then instead of quitting, I went into going into beast mode. So I trained even harder and became even more efficient and stronger, right? So I got so much what can you say appetite for competing that I started traveling around and competing, and I was the first European who got invited to Arnold Classic because I bullied them. I hammered on their door in order to get in an invite, right? So I got
Now,
an
wait a second. You said you're the first European to be invited to the Arnold Classic.
in
I
bench
mean,
press.
The Arnold Classic is named for a European. How is that?
The Arnold Classic is a competition that was instituted by Arnold Schwarzenegger. That one, the first one was in Columbus, Ohio, and they have been there for many, many, many years, right? That has
Okay.
nothing to do with me at all, right? So that had that was not no. There have been one guy before me. He was from Germany. He was from Germany, and I was the first Scandinavian. That's how it was. The first Scandinavian, and then I went there. I was successful. I broke the local record in Denmark and Europe, and I also broke a world record. So
was the world record based on your body weight?
yeah, in my class.
Okay.
So that was pretty awesome, right? So now I thought, now I can walk on water, right? Now I can walk on water. And then I came back to little Denmark and said, hey guys, look what I got. Yeah, but Anton, then you can do whatever you want to do. Just do what you want to do. Just stay over there, stay out of our way of doing things, right?
You're talking about um the community of lifting people there,
Yeah,
of lifting.
they
What
say
was they just didn't like you because you were 4 feet tall, or what?
no, they were against me because they said that I was self-centered. I was only looking out for my own interest, and I didn't care about them. And I was doing this here in order to promote myself, and I was trying to make money on it.
Was that true?
In a way, yes. Because I thought to myself, if you're good at something, then you must be able to gain something out of it, right? Because when you're good at football, then you can get sponsorships, right? And when you're good at basketball, then you have endorsements, right? And
Mm-hmm.
to myself, there must be something in it too. And some bodybuilders, they get sponsored by different vendors and so on. So said, why don't powerlifters do the same, right? Powerlifters need to be doing the same, right? So I thought about that, and then I realized there was no powerlifters basically who had made it to the mainstream media. And in Denmark, they had never heard of it, never heard of it. So then I wanted to. One of my pet pieces was that I wanted to have a world title, right? Because that was one of the things I want to have. But in order to have a world title, you need to represent a country. And then I was thinking, if Denmark don't want to have me, and I need to do so and so, and how the f do I get a nation I can represent, right? And then I was thinking and thinking and thinking, and me and Robert, we were thinking and thinking and thinking. And then Robert said, Anton, you have to humble yourself. You have to go back to Denmark, humble yourself, and be on your utmost best behavior, and just said, yes, I do to everything they throw against you. And eventually they will take you into their federation, and you will have to do some of their study classes, and you have to learn a little bit about the muscles, and you also have to participate in some of their local championships and show goodwill. I said, do I have to do all that? If you want a world title, then you have to do that. So I did that for 1 whole year. 1 whole year. That was difficult. But I traveled a few times in between and did what I did, right? So I won the world title when it was in Denmark. A world championship. I won the world title. And then I was the first powerlifter in the history of Denmark to ever be on national news. I was the first one to ever have an endorsement that where I was got a sponsorship. And then I start cranking the cam wheels a little more and a little more and get it to where I want it to be, right? And then I did three world titles in a row, and I broke the world record, I think 5 times or something like that.
So you were breaking your own record.
Yeah.
How close has somebody else come?
Today they have changed the weight categories because they wanted to do that, because that they came up with an explanation for it. They said it would be more fair, and in a way you can say so, and in a way you can always argue back and forth, right? But they are the only one. That federation is called IPF, International Powerlifting Federation. Are the only ones who have done it. All the other federations are still with the old weight categories, right? So they're the only ones who have done something, and they also want to be a part of the IOC, the International Olympic Organization. But I don't think that will ever happen. But that's a wet pipe dream they have. They want to be a part of that, right?
Were you lifting with like lifting straps and all that, or were you raw?
No, I was competing when I was competing twice when I won. I was using a bench press shirt, not the strap, just a bench press shirt. And the last one I was doing it raw, just in a t-shirt, just to show them that I was way better than them. And I done a few of those stunts. We had another championship where, um, back in the days, Russia was very good in sport, right? And so the Russian guy and I, we could be in each other's weight class with ease, right? And then he asked me the day before we were going for weigh-in, right? Anton, what weight class are you gonna be in? Are you gonna be in 56 or are you gonna be in 60 kilo class, right? I said, oh, what are you in the mood for? I asked him. I can do both. What are you in the mood for? I am in the mood for whatever you say, Anton. Okay. Then I said, then I go 60 and you go 56. Okay. So then everybody knew that I could not be in the 56 because I was eating. I was eating. And I was making no excuses of it, right? And my coach, he so-called national coach, he was furious because he found out that him and I had made an agreement that he was going to 56 and I was going to 60 because he said that we had tipped the scale unfairly because I gave him a gold medal by not being in his weight class. And for him,
Why'd you do that?
because if he was gonna compete against me, then there would be 40 kilos in between our lift. So he will get second. And then he would not be able to brag about it back in Russia.
So
And
you were doing a solid for your homie.
yeah,
That's cool.
and so I gave him. I did that, and we did. And then our the president of our Danish federation, he said, Anton, I know what you have done. That's pretty cool. But I said, yeah, but coach, he's pissed. Let him be pissed. Go and lift. So I went and lifted, I won what I was supposed to win, right? And I did what I was supposed to do.
Was there any other little people at all lifting, or was it just
There was a German guy called Marcus Schick. He's like 4 or 5 inches taller than me, but he's also heavier than me. But then there was a guy in the U.S. who was pretty damn good, but he was also a little bit taller than me. So when I stopped lifting for IPF, International Powerlifting Federation, that was because we had what can you say? We had a fallout, and I always been very loud about things. If there's something that I don't like or I disagree about, then I wanna say what I wanna say, and I wanna have it my way, right?
you've always got a lot to say?
Yeah, you know that firsthand. No, so the nature of the beast, I cannot extend my arm fully, right, because of my elbow, right? Then they wanted to have a rule change so that you had to extend your arms totally to fully extension. And I could show that medically is very bad to be able to do that when you lift heavy because you have the possibility for overextension, and then when you overextend your arm will break in the joint, right? And I could prove that medical. I had it from
I just had a friend the other day who's a super fit dude, Russian, by the way,
uh,
and somebody was critiquing one of his exercises. This guy's a physical specimen, and the person said, "Why aren't you locking out your arms?" And he said, "Because I don't want to injure myself."
yeah,
And so, yeah, he concurs.
yeah, because that's what you do. you injure yourself, and you can basically fuck up your arms pretty badly, right? And I had medical documentation for it, and they refused to accept it. They refused to accept it. So I said, I interviewed guys, doctors, medical doctors, or professors, or something like that. No, but we know what we want, and we know what we don't want. So they ended up having their way, and I left them, and they did them, and I did me, and I did some show lifting and had some fun doing that. And yeah, and I lived, for instance, I lifted one time on national TV in Europe. I had two girls sitting on the bar instead of having plates, right? So I have two girls sitting on the bar, and lifting the bar when I was taught joke, stuff like that.
That's fun.
Everybody likes shit like that.
You've had some physical health challenges in the last few years and have, I'm sure, been to the doctor a bunch. Have they, like, doctors had anything to say about the lifting?
No, they say that what can you say? That it has nothing to do with that, because it's a prostate and a bladder issue. And but now I'm with a different hospital and a different staff of people, and they are trying to get the best out of it. Nothing can happen to my sense of humor or other things. There are just certain things that I cannot do, and I couldn't sue the original hospital because they are a university hospital, and as such, you are supposed to read everything with small print, and one of the things that you don't read is that they are on university hospital, so they can do try and error, and they might succeed and they may not succeed, right?
Oh no.
Yeah, so but now I'm with some very competent people that know what they are doing, and that's good.
Good. I met you. You brought us down to do some shooting, and I don't know if I realized when I first talked to you years ago that you had all this stuff in your life. And then when I met you and we got to talking, I was like, holy crap, this dude's done a lot of stuff. Something I always try to bring up in these discussions, uh, we're all going to die, you and me, right? We're both going to, our days are going to come to an end. All this stuff that you've done in your 60 something years, what are a few simple lessons for people that you'd pass on?
I will say it like this: when people tell you that you cannot do X, Y, and Z, right? For some odd reason, either because you do not fit the description for doing so, or uh, it's too controversy, or whatever it is, right? If you feel for something and that will make you happy, right? Then don't listen to what the other people are saying. Just see how you can get away with it, right? Because
Like blowing up a lake.
yeah, you know what? You know what? By the
Hold
way,
on, time out. Just so we're on the same page, we are not condoning homemade explosives and blowing up skating ponds on this podcast. Go on.
cannot do that. We cannot do that. But but you can tell you something funny. Headmaster, he had a dog, a poodle. You know, a poodle, those
Sure.
small annoying dogs. They're very intelligent, but they are super annoying because they always say buff 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 buff.
Yeah, yeah.
They bark a lot, right? So he had one of those, and his wife was always walking with it, and every now and then it escaped from her, right? So one day we lured it, so it escaped from her, right? So we caught the dog, and you know those bags that are made out of cloth where a student can have their books in them, right? So we took one of those from one of the other students and emptied the bag and put all the books up on the shelves so they would not be missed, right? So everything was there. We just needed the bag. It was not a monetary value is nothing, right? So we took the dog, put it in there, and then we tied a knot on top of it, and then we hoisted up in the flagpole. So it was sitting up in the flagpole about 30 feet above the ground, and then this a lady of the headmaster, right? She ran around and called the dog's name, Doggy, 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 and that stupid dog was sitting up there saying, woof, 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 woof. And she couldn't find it because he would not look up in the air. So she looked in all the bushes and under the flowers and wherever she could look, right? And then all of a sudden, one of the servants that was there at the school, at our school, he looked up like that, and he saw the animal up in there in the flagpole, and he poked her on the shoulder and said, "Ma'am, it's up there." And then she cursed him out and told him he was an idiot, right? And then she said, "No, ma'am, no, ma'am, it's up there." Yeah, you're an idiot. And then he did that, and then she saw it, and she almost fainted
Where were you guys hiding watching this?
in the bushes.
You're a criminal.
No, we were just what can you say, a little bit ahead of our.
What if the dog would have jumped out of the bag?
It couldn't because we have tied it with a knot.
My God, torturing animals.
No, it's just got an experience.
An experience. That's freaking horrible.
How many dogs do you know who can tell the other dogs that they have seen the world feed?
There's the silver lining for your dog abuse.
Hmm?
I lost you for a second. I said, there's your silver lining for the dog abuse. Man, I really appreciated you taking the time to visit with us. How did you find me?
How I found you to begin with?
Yeah, when you reached out to me years ago.
When I remember I saw one of your first podcasts where you were educating people about firearms and firearm safety and being proficient with a tool, whether it was a hammer, a screwdriver, or a handgun. Whatever tool you take into your hand, you need to be proficient with it. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to use the tool. And then you were telling people about if you decide to carry a firearm, then you need to know the responsibilities that comes with it, and what it can do for damage, and what it also can do for damage on your life if you do it wrongly. If you don't understand what kind of power you have, and what can comes with it in case you represent yourself in a bad way, or you say something extremely stupid if shit hit the fan.
Don't do that.
That was some of the things that you were telling people about, right? And then you told people a little bit about calibers and master grip and all those things. And yeah, then you made an impact on me because you were very unapologetic in the way you did it. And I always have a tendency to like people who are unapologetic.
Yeah, I like guys that don't take small dogs and run them up flagpoles, you dog bully. Here was my point. For all of the negatives of the internet, it's pretty dang cool that a kid from the suburbs of Chicago uploads some videos to the internet, and I get to make a friend from Denmark who happens to be the strongest pound for pound human on the planet. That's pretty dang cool. So I appreciate that you reached out to me all those years ago and we got to form a friendship. I'm glad to see that you're doing well too. We lost touch for a little while there.
I would say I'm very happy about our friendship because you have taught me a thing or two over the years, and also I am impressed about the way you have done your things with your business, and you have turned your. I think you're a carpenter or something like that originally, right?
I've been a carpenter since I was a teenager. Yes,
Yeah.
five generations of carpenters before me.
Yeah, you're a woodman, right? And you basically turned yourself into be a media mogul and influencer. The way you have created your business now and the way you're branding things and moving on to think doing seminars and stuff the way you're doing them, right? And
I appreciate that. I don't know if I'd call myself some of those things, but I'll let you say it.
oh yeah, but I think you're doing pretty awesome, and I think many of those people who are out there, you have influenced over the years, where you told them go out there and train people. If you have some knowledge and you are capable of training people, than train people, because the more they get to know about the proper ethics and techniques and stuff like that, the better it is. Because if we all are educated in what we are doing, then we might not do that many mistakes.
I dig it. Friend, I appreciate you taking the time to share some of your story today. I bet there are hundreds of other little stories that you've got. Some of them probably would put you in jail if there wasn't a
No, no, no,
statute of
no, 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 no,
limitations.
no. But you can say something, see something funny. Um, uh, I remember the first time I went to a gun range. The first time I went to a gun range, that was the one in Denmark, and I, we had a what can you call, a shooting team at our boarding school. We were shooting old school military rifles, and those rifles were about 4 feet long, so they were longer than I was tall, right? And then I remember when I said I want to join, and then they looked at me, all of them, and said, "Anton, how do you want to join? The gun is longer than you." I want to join because I can I can lay down and shoot. I can do that. Anton, you cannot do that. Let me try, and I will try. So I took one a wooden cradle, uh, a wooden ammo box, and I put it on the ground, and I put the gun on top of it, and I laid behind it, just like it was a machine gun, right? And then I fired it, and eventually I hit the target, and it was a 7.92 millimeter old cartridge. But it was hilarious because all of a sudden the other guys, they start doing prone position too, laying down and shoot, right? Because that was more.
That's funny.
And then they start. Then all of a sudden I started a trend by using something to put it on, right?
I like it.
That was how I got into firearms in the first place. And then,
You just gave me the title for the podcast, I think, in that last story. You've got so much valuable lessons for people. I appreciate it, man. I look forward to visiting with you again in person when I'm back in Florida. And you guys that tuned in, go do a little Google foo. You can see pictures of this guy and videos of him lifting weights and read about the different the lifts and accolades that he's done in his life. I think most importantly, doesn't it doesn't matter what people tell you. It matters what you believe. And I think Anton proved that perfectly in the last 60 something years of his life. I hope you live 60 more, homie.
thank you, and I hope you get old too.
Final word for you.
Yeah. Uh, I will. I have a wish. I have a wish. If we look at the country where we are right now, at the U.S., and we see where we are. We are in a zone where we can say we are going from being a child in nation years, and now we are moving up to become a teenager in nation age, right? Those people, those countries, we are adversaries that we are comparing ourselves to. They have a history that dates hundreds, thousands of years back, right? Our country is 270 something years old, right? We are an infant, basically, who have become a teenager. And right now we are in that stage where we go into puberty, where we go from being a old boy to become a young man, right? That's where we are. And our adversaries out there, for instance, China, the biggest one of them all, they have learned from us. They have learned from America, and they have seen what we did after the Second World War with the Marshall help that we gave to the Europeans. That was the aid that was given, but it was not just It was given with demands the other way around. We help you to get better, but in order to do that, you take our help and you buy our products. That's how it was done, right? Now China have been doing that all over the world, in Africa,
Mhm.
America, and many other places, right? Building railroads, building bridges, building infrastructure, right? All those places where we didn't want to be because we wanted them to have democracy, right? We wanted to educate them. We wanted to do so and so because we felt that we were better, and we wanted to bring them up to a higher standard than the one they were, right? Because we put something called moral into the equation. China don't play with moral. They're very pragmatic. They're saying, we want this. Okay. If you believe in Jesus, that's fine with us. If you believe in dictatorship, it's fine with us as long as you buy our product. We don't care if you have democracy. We don't care if you have a Buddhist or you have an Ayatollah or whatever you have. You can do whatever you want. As long as we can have a railroad going through your country, we can use your port and you buy our stuff. Fine with us, right? That's how they are doing things, and that's why they are more successful than we are.
What's your wish?
My wish is that we will have somebody in our government who can be more pragmatic and look at solutions. How do we get to the finish line? How do we get there without thinking so much about the nuances, right? We
Mhm.
don't, we don't need all the nuances. We just need, can we do it or can we not do it? And
Makes sense.
we need to think about what is our best interest to do, right? What fits America best, right? We don't need to figure out how to save the world all the time. We need to figure out save America and
Save America, bro.
save our experiment, because it was an experiment that started back in the days.
I agree. I think it requires lots of good people appreciating the beauty of that experiment. I like it. Friend,
Yeah.
keep doing you, being an inspiration of people. I hope you have a Merry Christmas. How do you say Merry Christmas in your native tongue? Dutch, right? You speak
No,
Dutch?
it's Danish, like the pastry, Danish.
Danish. Delicious.
It's called Glædelig Jul.
Glily you.
It sounds terrible, but it means Merry.
Glily you?
Yeah.
Glily you, pal.
Glædelig Jul.
I love you. I'll see you soon. The
See
rest
you.
of you folks, if you enjoyed our discussion, leave a comment. Go check this dude out online. Be well. Don't be dickheads. Tell somebody you love them, and remember to walk a higher line.
Visit our website, carrytrainer.com, for information about classes held throughout the U.S., Carry Trainer apparel, and upcoming projects. You can also email us at training@carrytrainer.com for information about setting up your own private course or speaking engagement. Training@carrytrainer.com or carrytrainer.com.
So I just asked you about some crazy stories that happened when you were a kid. You told me you and your buddies were sitting around talking about the birds and the bees, and nobody knew anything.
Yeah.
You're walking by a store every day where there's a mannequin, like a naked mannequin of a woman in the window. You walk by it like 100 times, right? Over the
Yeah.
days of coming and going. And finally,
Yeah.
one day you're like, I'm going in to see this mannequin. You
Yeah.
walk in and there's a woman in there that's got barely any clothes on. What kind of
Yeah.
store was this? Like a ladies' clothing store?
No, it was an adult shop.
Oh, like sex stuff.
Yeah. So I walked in there, and then
How old were you?
14.
You're 14, you walk into a sex shop in Denmark.
Yeah. And then the lady said, "What can I do for you, shorty?" And I was then I said, "I'm not that short." And then she said, "Yes, you are. But what can I do for you?" And then I asked her about the mannequin out there, and why she was half naked, right? And then she said, then I said, I wanted to know if you know something about that, with the birds, the bees, and the flies, and the girls and boys and stuff like that, right? And then she said, "Of course I do. And what do you want to know?" So I said, so I started from the get-go, right? And then she said, that's very, very simple. And then she gave me a crash course in it, right? This is what it's all about. And then I said, but why are you here? And then she said, that is because I help people with some of the things they cannot get done otherwise. Okay. Hmm. And but Shorty, you cannot afford me because you only have allowance. And then I said, you don't know how much I have in allowance, and I got very pissed, right? And then she was laughing, and then she said, you know what? I give you a deal. If you do all my errands, that means you go for the bank, you go for the post office, you go for the grocery, you mop my floors, you do all the things that I ask you to do, then I got you a sweet deal. I said, what? Okay. So the following day, I went to her and I enlisted in her little business, right? Went to the post office, went to the bank, went and did all her errands and stuff like that. On Friday, then she said to me, Anton, yeah, what do you want to do? You want to have the sweet deal, or you want to have the money that I owe you? I said, and I was thinking, money, sweet deal, money, sweet deal, right? And then I said, what if you know what? Forget about it. You get your sweet deal and you get your money. It's your day today. I said, what do I do? You go in there and you lay on the bed and you get naked. Okay, I never been naked with a woman before. And then she said, you just go in there and get naked, and then I come in and see you. So I went in there and got butt naked, and then she came in, and when she touched my leg, my thigh, the whole shit went kaboom, right? The whole went kaboom, and I was so embarrassed. I was so embarrassed. I was so embarrassed, and she was laughing her ass off, right? And she said to me, "Don't worry, it happened to all the boys, Anton. It happened to all the boys, and you're not the first one." I said, "Okay, I'm not the first one. No, you're not the first one. And you're not the last one either. Let's take it easy." And then eventually she taught me a thing or two about it, and the rest is history, right? But
That's insane. You just described what is considered a crime in most places.
what can I say? She only touched my leg.
On that, I'm going to hang up. That's hilarious. Be well. Don't be dickheads. Tell somebody you love them. Peace out.